Coming up on the Pete Souza Show on the Rogue Sports Network. Does it matter that I'm moving around? Nah, it doesn't matter. We talked to Scott Lauer. Scott Lauer. No, he matters. 10 years in the NBA as a broadcaster, still so connected to the game. And we had a chance to catch up with him about all things NBA, including the playoffs, what's shaking out, and also what's going on behind the scenes and the draft. The draft is not great, and that's why we start things off talking about Bronny James. It's just an interesting topic. I'm sorry if you're tired of it. I'm not. And I have a whole take on the whole Lakers situation with Bronny James. And that take was interrupted by Mike Hamilton, but Mike's family. And when family comes to sit at the dinner table, Zach, you deal with them. But every day seems to be Thanksgiving around here because we can't get rid of Mike Hamilton. But we love him. So the motherboard went down. Zach, is it a motherboard?
It's not. It's the regular audio board.
Mike's over here. Mike, what? Well, this is no way to start the show. What happened?
Am I piped in?
No.
Pipe me in.
Hold on.
I mean, this is.
Pipe me in.
You are now. There you are.
This is a fine-tuned machine here.
Yeah.
They got to see it leave camera and come back.
Dude.
Well, it's just one of those things, man. You know, sometimes the gremlins are out and sometimes they aren't.
But what if if I was Kid Cam Stewart, this stuff will be.
If you were Cam Stewart, we'd just let you do it yourself. But no, it's you know, we had a weird Zoom call, but that was because he couldn't get his
We didn't have a
sound
Zoom
on.
call.
Right. Well, you did, but you didn't.
Well, then honestly,
had a Zoom.
I'm blaming that on Scott.
You had a Zoom look at his face call.
That's 100% Scott's
Yeah. And next time we call him, we're not using Zoom because Zoom sucks. So
Mike is very
Zoom will
anti-Zoom
not be a
today.
sponsor on this program, I can tell you.
Well, not now.
No,
not with you talking about
suck.
him like that.
Zoom's terrible. It really is. Let me just tell you. Zoom got great. It got great reviews. Everybody started using it because it's one big damn button, right? You push the button, you're done. There's a couple of other better things out there that we ought to be using.
What are better?
StreamYard, for one, is wonderful.
It's a huge pain in the ass if you have to send somebody that's your guest and say, hey,
They
can
can
you
do
download StreamYard?
They can do it in a browser now.
I'd hate to be that guy. We might be a little bit too much inside baseball on this, but all right.
Well, go ahead.
You know.
Yeah.
He asked me what happened.
No, fair enough.
No, I think I don't think we are at all.
Okay, no fun.
Yeah, no, because people StreamYard is a pain in the ass. But I'm not saying it's not more serviceable, but if you want to have a guest on, if I want to have Zach Burke on the show,
all you got to do is ask.
Zach's being kind enough.
Well, the thing is, like a writer or somebody who's been in the league or something like that, not all of them are going to have the wherewithal to be able to turn it on and push all the buttons and do all the things to get set up. And so that's why we still use Zoom.
Yeah.
So I guess the Zoom's the link based, and the other one you would have to go into the app.
You know who uses Zoom?
Who?
Bronny James.
Does he?
Are we sure about that?
I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, but I would imagine he does because Zoom's the best, and it's like an Apple, you know. That's like LeBron.
An Apple product or like a Golden Delicious?
It's like an Apple product.
Okay.
So here's my thing about Bronny James. He is rising up teams' draft boards in a draft that. And
I thought he was terrible.
Pardon me?
I thought he was bad.
No.
The draft? Yeah.
No,
the draft.
him.
No, he was hurt early in the season,
Yeah.
and he actually was solid most of the year. Now you hear the stuff, well, LeBron's teammates weren't any good, or Bronny's teammates weren't any good, so that's why he wasn't any good. Which I'm sort of like, well, if you're good, as opposed to when, like if your teammates are good, you're always
tide
gonna
lifts
be good.
all boats, kind of thing.
Well, no. And I don't think he should be the first pick in the draft.
Is that what happened in 2004 in Cleveland? His teammates just weren't any good?
Now you're talking about LeBron.
Okay, hold on.
All right, don't get people confused.
I'm just saying, it seems to be a running theme.
No, look, LeBron James.
He's a great player. Don't get me wrong, great player.
Yeah.
But I saw a meme the other day where Michael Jordan was kind of laughing at him because he goes, "You're not the GOAT because you're still wearing my uniform."
We're talking about LeBron.
No, I think he knows we're talking about Bronny.
I know who you're talking about.
But I think he's trying to throw in arguments for the base.
What I'm saying
LeBron.
is that there is a track record here in this family.
Yeah.
You know, they play in San Antonio. The air conditioner goes out. The only one that gets hurt is LeBron James. You know, there's always a reason why he didn't win a championship at this team or that team or whatever, or his teammates weren't any good.
Zach,
But he's not making those. He's
Zach,
not the one making those
have
excuses.
full
He's the one that had the
command
cramps.
on this post where you can take this out if you want. Okay.
Okay.
But I'm going to continue talking.
Keep going.
So Will Dawkins, who's the general manager of the Washington Wizards, stay there, Mike. I like. I
Okay,
don't want
thank
to
you,
go
babe.
anywhere.
We'll put a picture for you.
Yeah. Oh, we can't see him. That's fine. Will was on the show Run It Back. All right, and this is an insight into what general managers are thinking about.
This is the general manager of the Wizards.
General manager of
Okay.
the Wizards talking to your buddy, one of my favorites, Michelle Beadle.
Yeah.
Beads is awesome. Texas girl, yeah, San Antonio girl, and ESPN Spurs, whatever. So here's what he said.
Spurs, whatever.
Spurs, whatever is
Yeah.
appropriate.
So here's what Will Dawkins had to say about Bronny.
You guys also have the 26th pick. You said the 51st pick.
Yes.
There's a kid out there named Bronny James.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
Everyone's talking about does daddy follow him? Is that something they're exploring? Because his combine, he actually looked kind of nice.
Yeah, I would say if his name was Johnny James, like the media and fans wouldn't care as much,
Right.
but he'd still be on our radar. Like he's a guy that did his work in high school, was a high school All-American, obviously showed a massive resilience to come back from everything he went through. So you didn't expect him to start the year off the way he did. So he finished the year strong, he's finishing the combine strong. So as evaluators, we have to look at him, but at the end of the day, he's just like everyone else in this draft process.
See,
So the Wizards have the second pick in the draft. Obviously, if they take Bronny, I don't even know if they have a later pick.
Yeah.
So here's another thing that
I'll tell you a team who's got two top 10 picks. 4 and 8. Just saying.
Congrats.
4 and
San
8.
Antonio Spurs.
4 and 8.
So
And also, I read a thing the other day that they said that they could get as many as 4 first-round picks next year.
It's so awesome that draft picks are directly correlated to a championship.
Well, they are in San Antonio.
They're in San
I know they're not in
Antonio.
That
Houston,
is true.
but,
Never
you
mind. I
know,
tried to make that joke in San Antonio. They kind of.
That's why we do stuff there.
So here's my
I would take him. I would take him in a heartbeat.
well, yeah,
And it's for the circus.
that's and it probably is a circus because there's nothing you can't avoid that. Now, people talk about the Lakers possibly drafting him, and people talk about obviously LeBron's involvement in the Lakers taking him, and people talk about LeBron possibly picking the next coach for the Lakers. He'd been talking to J.J. Redick, who he famously has, or now famously has a podcast with, and they go in depth on basketball. And the show is really a window into LeBron's brilliance as a basketball guy, but he's also doing, LeBron stuff.
Sure.
There's some veiled stuff, and here's the thing about LeBron. Now that I'm thinking about it, I love LeBron because he's never ever gotten into trouble, like as far as we know.
That's true.
He is amazing. He's one of the best players of all time.
He did hang out with Johnny Manziel a little bit, but other than that, yeah.
He's one of the best players of all time. You could argue he and Jordan, whatever, that's fine, but
He's in the conversation.
Oh,
for
he's,
sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
And he's so wealthy and successful. And I'm not saying this is like there's any kind of race thing here, but it's interesting. People are all over LeBron's ass about, oh, now he's going to pick the coach. Now his son's going to play with him. He wants to own a team. It's like this is just like any wealthy Texas oil guy.
Well,
right? Like old man, white dude. This has been going on in business forever. I have a kick-ass situation at a company. Oh, now I send up the ranks. I'm calling the shots.
Well, I mean,
That's
put
how
it
it
in
is.
another sport. Tom Brady would do the same thing.
That's what I was about to say, too.
He would
Yeah.
do the same thing.
I
He
don't
just doesn't
think-
have a kid that plays.
But I don't think he'd have the juice. I mean, Tom Brady was pushed down in New England.
I don't
Like,
know,
and I
man.
think that's why LeBron is so special.
I think he'd have the juice anywhere he wanted to go. You're telling me that if the Jets called and said, "Listen, Aaron's gone on another sojourn,"
Okay, I agree. He would go. Any team would take him, but he would not have. I feel like LeBron is like basically almost.
I'll tell you,
and he's not. But people say he's running the Lakers. And
I'll tell you this. I didn't like LeBron early in his career, but we played him a lot, right? And I'm talking Spurs. We played him a lot. And
Is this guy like? Would he play power forward for them?
And there was always like a love-hate thing, right? Because we played him so much. Pop loves him, all of that kind of stuff. So I got to give him benefit of the doubt. I will tell you, this guy, from the day he came in the league till now, he has changed his game. Mm-hmm. He's built his body. He's done all the things that you're supposed to do to have an elongated career.
Yeah.
And I got to respect that 100%. The fact that he's a Laker, I'm not respecting that.
Well,
it's
but,
the Lakers.
I mean, people bounce around. It's a different game now than it is for like all in a way of how superstars are with teams, just
Is it?
across the board with free agency. It's a different game in general.
Everybody keeps saying that.
But
Mike,
but it
but
is like
in this small market
Jordan
that
was
we
never
have-
going to leave the Bulls. They were never going to allow that to happen, and the system wasn't the same way it is now. So it is different.
In the small market that San Antonio has, who jumped that ship?
This isn't apples to apples though. This is apples to oranges.
Well, let's
'cause you
talk
brought
about the
yourself,
one.
it's a
Let's
small
talk about the guy
market.
we have now. Do you think you think Wemby goes somewhere?
If they build it, here's the thing: winning cures all. And if you have a championship team, you'll stay in a small market.
Yeah.
If they don't win and the
Yeah.
the turnaround doesn't turn out, then he's not going to stay in San Antonio.
Okay.
I like it as a nice town.
All right.
Charles Barkley hates it. Wemby seems like he might agree more with Charles.
Charles, the kid jokes around.
What hates San
He hates San
Antonio?
Antonio.
Yeah.
Who, Wemby?
No, Charles.
Well, you said he
Charles,
agreed
yes,
with
it's
him.
bad.
I'm saying he seems like a guy.
Oh
who
God,
might-
no. He's put out all these statements. He loves the city. Yeah.
Well,
Great.
I think what you could have with Wemby is Giannis in Milwaukee, which honestly, you win a championship and, you look at the whole Giannis thing. I think you'd like some kind of dynasty, but at the end of the day, you'd probably, as a Bucks fan, you take the championship and the fact that he re-signed.
I have always thought that LeBron would play with us for a year. And I don't know if that would actually happen or not, but I know that he and Pop are super close. They like each other so much. They respect each other so much. I'd love to see it. Be fine.
All right.
Great. You want to go out 1 year? Let's do it.
It's also fine if you can trim this as much as you want. All right? And last question, Mike, did you work at an adult film store?
I did not.
Okay.
Well,
Ah,
kind of.
Scott Lauer, next. Let's talk NBA. You ready to?
Yep.
I mean, you are the NBA's Scott Lauer, and you're still connected to the game. You're a literal veteran of the league, more than 10 years or around 10 years play-by-play. You're also a native New Yorker. And the Knicks, Game 7, Pacers, heartbreaker. Who deserves the blame for the Knicks? Is it because I'm seeing stuff, and maybe there is no blame, right? But I'm seeing Tibbs take a little. And outside of that, I haven't seen much because the guys were hurt. But in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's ridiculous that people are pointing the finger at Tibbs. I mean, there's no direct correlation between virtually any of these injuries and the fact that he's playing these guys 45 to 48 minutes a night. I mean, Randall, busting, his arm, his hand. I mean, or Brunson just doing that recently. That has nothing to do with playing time and the cardio. Maybe the Anunity injury, I guess, can be slightly connected, but that's just a theory. I mean, as Tibbs
Does he
put it-
work these guys too hard? Does it because that's the knock, right? I mean, it's an NBA schedule. He'll bust their ass off the floor too.
Yeah, but didn't Tibbs come out with this great line when people used to ask him about it? And this is long before the playoffs. People used to question, are you playing guys too much? And he would always say, you can play yourself into the conditioning that you want to be in and get yourself into the 48-minute-a-night condition, which was, I thought, was a great way of saying, guys are prepared to play, and I'm going to treat a December game like it's a May game. And so when these games really matter, I mean, this is second nature to them. They're used to playing the abundance of minutes. So to me, I'm not putting any of the blame on Tibbs. I think he's an elite coach. I think it's just circumstantial, and these things happen, just some bad timing.
Were you ever around an NBA coach or team or in your time in the league, you had seen that be a problem, like with guys playing too much and running out of gas? Like so for you being around the game, do you believe in that? Have you seen it before?
Look, I mean, I always thought it was ridiculous, when these guys were babied and only playing, let's just say 30 minutes a night, or the Kawhi Leonard treatment, when you're making $50 million a year in some cases and you need a day off, and you can't play 4 games in 5 nights and things like that. And I understand it's a very intense game and physical, and of course I can't relate to that, but I mean, they're playing hoops. They're not shoveling coal for 15 hours a day. in Butte, Montana in the late 1800s. So no, I'm not buying any of that. I'm all for what Tibbs has done.
So watching the Knicks this year, and I was frustrated because I just love when the Knicks are great in the NBA. It's better for the NBA. Like if the Knicks had won Game 7, although they were dragging themselves, right? They would have been dragging themselves into the Eastern Conference Finals. I still would have liked the allure, the Garden, all that stuff around it. But I was like I parachuted in as a fan. But I was frustrated several times. Not only did the Pacers shoot the ball so well, but it seemed like when the Knicks were getting to the rim, they really were having a tough time finishing or getting fouled. I love Jalen Brunson, Villanova guy. Is a guy like that too small to take his team to the next level?
That's a fair question. I mean, I thought all along, even though I adored his game and respected him like no other. And in fact, when Rick Brunson was one of our assistant coaches years ago, under Mike Dunlap, I heard all about this guy's son being a stud in school. And this is multiple years before Villanova. And I didn't know much about him. And then, of course, I got to see him. And then I thought to myself, this is what the hype was about. He's a guy that just knows how to play and can compensate for the physical deficiencies, like his height or lack of true athleticism. But, I mean, can he get – I think he can, because I really believe that if they were healthier around him, especially, like if they had Randall, for example, or Anunoby for the full series, or maybe even a healthier Hart toward the latter portion of the series, there's no reason to think they would not have advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then from there, nothing's going to shock me with their momentum and the way he's been playing. So even though it's hard to fathom a guy that looks like that leading a team to an NBA championship, I think he's shown that he just knows how to do it, and I wouldn't question it. Yeah.
What did you take from you've been around Del Curry, Steph Curry. We just mentioned Rick Brunson and Jalen. Not that you had any crazy experience with Jalen. Patrick Mahomes is another one. Do you think that or should I say, because I think, how much does it play into those guys experiencing the game, being around the game, and being able to shift gears and play on such a huge stage, right? The sons of these major athletes that have gone before them.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely something to that. I mean, I would suggest that if two guys are on par and like you're thinking about drafting two guys or trading for two, if physically speaking, but one has the lineage, and that history of growing up in a household like that and spending time in the locker room. And, I know like Muggsy Bogues has told me before, and I've seen pictures and video, he was playing around with Steph in the Hornets locker room, with Dell next to him. And how could that not just kind of infiltrate the bloodstream and the wiring of Steph growing up? Because these guys aren't fazed by the surroundings and the environment. So I think there is something that has to be said for that. And of course, just the coaching from their dads and talking about the sport growing up at the dinner table even. I'm a proponent. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say just because a kid is a product of a professional that obviously that's going to be an automatic that they're going to succeed. But I think if two people are on a similar scale in line, to take that as a tiebreaker.
The Pacers, they're a big time long shot. Do they have a chance to beat the Celtics? And if so, how do they do it?
I don't think so. I mean, I like the story and I like their pace and all that. And I love Tyrese Halliburton. And Siakam trade's proven to be a very productive one. But Boston is just so much deeper, more talented, at least top heavy for sure, and rested. I think Indiana's been stressed in that series, and they did a hell of a job coming back with Rick Carlisle making some adjustments, like putting Neesmith more so on Brunson, which I loved, and things like that. But I just don't see it. I see Boston in 5. I think it's just a classic case of the rest making a huge difference on top of the deficiency of the talent pool for Indiana.
So talking about the Western Conference, this reminds me of the NBA when you and I were kids. It's super exciting with Ant-Man, right? With Minnesota, with Luka and Kyrie. It's just a very colorful finals. It's really exciting. Karl Anthony Towns as well. It seems like the Wolves are like it's like a movie montage where they're like everything's going right. You know what I mean? Like there's no egos. It's just a blast. And we're at the pinnacle of like the best part of the movie, and then the other side would be the team falling apart and the problems that come with winning a championship. But again, Dallas is favored in that series. How do you see that series playing out?
Yeah, I mean the one thing that's exciting is you've got young stars that are destined. Somebody is going to be a champion now. You know, whether it's on the East with Tatum leading that way, or Ant or Luka. I mean, this is like the cadre of young stars in the NBA, and somebody's going to be crowned. I like Minnesota personally. I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, if Dallas won, but I think Minnesota is the best two-way team in the league. With their length and, I mean, stifling defense. Like I like Jaden McDaniels. Like he's going to do some work guarding Luka, and I think he's going to help slow him down a fair amount. But it's the defense. We all know it. Like you've got to be like a top 5, top 7 offense and defense to be a champion, and nobody's playing better defense than Minnesota. But I give Dallas credit. I mean, I never predicted them to go this far. Frankly, I like some of their trades, like with Gafford. PJ Washington was a solid move, I thought, but I didn't think he'd be playing this well late. But the big story is Kyrie. I mean, this is a guy I wouldn't have touched if I was an NBA champ a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, if you said a year ago, you just take Kyrie, you don't have to give us anything. Just absorb his personality and then maybe give him a new contract, which he needed, I would have passed. So for me, this has been like a reclamation project, and I think this is actually going to, help his legacy if he can drive them with Luka to a championship, because he was more toxic than anything from afar, it appeared. But now you don't hear anything about it, and he's kind of playing the number 2 man very, very nicely, like he did for LeBron back in Cleveland.
Yeah, does that mean Kyrie is like crazy like a fox? Like how is he? How does that happen? Because if you are like a toxic person or whatever, you don't just change like that. What do you think he's done differently this year?
Wait, what is this? The payoff with Pete? These types of questions?
Lauer, I can go inside basketball with you. We can go off the court into the psyche. I know what I'm dealing with.
And by the way, not to cross-brand and plug, the other great podcast you do, which I listen to virtually every week, but I just love the one that you just had with MJ Gottlieb. That was fantastic.
You're the man. You're the man. The payoff with Pete, you can get it on Rogue Media, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you.
It's all about Sousa, and I mean, with Kyrie, I just think even with Harden, frankly, to an extent, to maybe lump them together, I mean, they've just been worn down by bad press, but appropriately so. I mean, they frankly deserve what they've gotten based on certain antics and behavior. But, I mean, I'm not here to disparage Kyrie. I don't, of course, know him personally, but just from afar, it's despite his exquisite talent, I just didn't think the juice was worth the squeeze, having him around the last few years on the teams he's been with. And you couldn't rely on him to play and to play well without bickering eventually. So it's a fair question. It's like, how can somebody just flip the switch if it's personality driven? But I think maybe he went down in his own gut and said, you know what, this is the time that I need to prove people wrong, and I've got a guy like Luka, and I'm just going to play the good Samaritan and let him do his thing, and I'm just going to be quiet and reclaim my prominence in the league.
Who wins that series, T-Wolves and Dallas? You think it's going to be Minnesota because they're so long?
Yeah, I'm going.
Dallas is
Minnesota
favored in the series. When I say favorite, I'm talking about Vegas odds. I know you know a little something about gambling, and you're a former college bookie at Ithaca College. So.
Oh man, all the skeletons are coming out. Nobody can come after me after like a 30-year period's over, right?
You're good.
Right. There's no paper trail.
Weren't you just with all the Ithaca alums a couple weeks ago?
Oh, my reunion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going actually up to Connecticut for Andrew Marchand's 50th.
Yeah.
The athletic writer. That's right.
And so if you stiffed anybody, you'll find out next week.
That's right. It's going to be a cool little sports reunion. Kevin Connors from ESPN was part of the old clan, so it'll be fun. 11 days from now to be up there.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome environment, especially for all you guys. Ithaca's there's a lot of talent that's come out of Ithaca. It's like a sleeping giant. I remember when we were in Charlotte, Barry Silberman, the guy who helped build the arena, was an Ithaca guy. Of course, Chris Weiler, who had worked with the Knicks, who run in their show and then ran ours in Charlotte. And then our man Scott Lightman, and then you. I mean, and I know there's a million I'm leaving out that I don't even know about, but I've always been impressed with the type of talent they've churned out.
Well, you have a great memory. You always do. You remember all the names and the history of these things. Actually, a funny, quick Ithaca story. David Muir, who you're probably familiar with on ABC, news anchor. So he was a hot shot at Ithaca when I was there. We overlapped by 1 year. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and I'm doing Ithaca College TV like production, like literally one of my first weeks as a freshman, and I'm running a camera. And at the time, I had no knowledge of the equipment. As you can tell, I don't even know how to use a Zoom now, let alone using
we're
a camera
Bluetoothing
back
Scott
then.
in because we had trouble with the audio.
Right, there you go. And so they're like, all right, guy, you're going to be on camera one. You just listen to the director and producer in your ear. And this is a college broadcast. People are just trying to get their experience. But that night, David Muir was the director. And so he was the one in my ear along with the other camera operators. And I remember during the show, he's like, all right, camera one, pull out. And I'm literally physically trying to pull this like 2-ton camera instead of pull out, meaning zoom out, being the lingo. And I had no idea of that. So he starts lighting me up, like cursing, get this young guy who knows nothing, he doesn't know what he's doing, get him off the camera. So that was my good David Muir story from Ithaca.
What was the frosty relationship from that point going forward?
I don't, we didn't really interact much. I mean, again, he was a senior. I was this freshman, this lost, confused freshman. But I do remember, he was just fantastic on the air. And he had a great reputation even back then for, having this great future.
Yeah, he's amazing. How about back to the NBA? A couple more things before I let you get out of here. What has happened? I figured you would know this. What's happened to home court in the NBA? It's totally changed. I mean, we're coming off Eastern Conference semifinals, Western Conference semifinals, where two teams. If you'd asked me earlier in the day who's going to win, my muscle memory went back to both home teams because you just find a way to gut it out at home in a Game 7. That is no longer the case.
Yeah, that's a really fair, good question. It's hard to pinpoint that. The crowds obviously don't change. I don't know if this is probably just overanalyzing it. But one of my pet peeves is the officiating, not the officials themselves, because they've got a really tough job and they do a wonderful job. But I don't like the new rules of replay. I don't like constant stoppages of play to review, breaking up the momentum. And maybe when you're dealing with crowds, the more frequent stoppages maybe can halt momentum with home crowds. I mean, that's just one theory I may have on that. I'm not sure how much substance there is to that, but it to me just breaks it up too much.
Yeah.
I miss the free-flowing action and just letting guys play like back in the day. So that might have something to do with it. Are you a buyer of that theory?
I think it's pretty good. I mean, part of me thinks, even as we're sitting here talking about it, my own brain is moving and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's the crowds. Are they too corporate now? But they're still really loud in those buildings. Those in big games, a Game 7, they get you being in Madison Square Garden on Sunday afternoon. I'm sure there was nothing like it before the game. They weren't lacking on firepower.
Exactly.
But there's something to it for sure. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it jumps out at you. But I still have that. Oh, home team's going to win. It's Game 7. That's just kind of how we grew up.
I know.
More often than not. How about this draft? I know you're sort of like a draft guru. You love it, and you love young talent. Is this the worst draft since when?
This is the worst draft since the Cody Zeller draft, and I love Cody. This is no knock on Cody or that. And that was the Anthony Bennett draft.
Oh yeah, 2014.
It was it. You might be.
Yeah,
I think it was a little. Is it possible that was like 2012 or
maybe
so?
no, because I was actually I was like back on track. I was I remember I just gotten sober, and I somehow pitched myself to go cover the draft with help from you. I went and I covered the draft for like a bunch of different radio stations. I think I did a call in for Washington D.C.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was 14 then.
Yeah, and
okay.
I remember when he got drafted, Bill Simmons was doing the TV for ESPN, and right away they picked his name, Anthony Bennett, and Simmons. Wow, nobody saw that coming. I think that was the same draft, or maybe it was a year later, that Doc Rivers was like, "Who the hell's Bill Simmons, anyways?" But then now they're simpatico.
right.
Yeah,
I love Simmons.
Simmons.
Yeah, that was a horrendous draft. I mean, that was the Victor Oladipo, Zeller. Actually, I think if memory serves, C.J. McCollum was one of the better players in that draft, and he went, like roughly 12 to 14 to Portland.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was brutal. This draft is really weak. One guy I like, and I like Reed Shepherd
from Kentucky.
Out of Kentucky. He doesn't have the athleticism, and I do wonder if he's going to have like the lateral quickness defensively to excel on that end. But I really love everything else about his game. The shooting is spectacular. He's got just a knack for the ball and a feel for the game. And like you alluded to before, when your dad is a former player, plus in that category as well. But he's a guy that I think is going to emerge as one of the better players in this draft.
So who wins the finals?
I'm going Minnesota. I'm going Minnesota-Boston finals. And then that's going to open up, if that indeed proves to be the case, that's going to open up a lot of talk with the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Missoula situation. Are they equipped to finish the job and all that? But I think Minnesota with Edwards in the defense, it's something that's pretty damn special. When you can beat Denver, it's hard to go against them.
Some of the, this is a point in time where they say in the NBA coaches don't matter as much as they do in college, and you could ask 100 people that and get a bunch of different answers. But more people would probably say college coaches are more important. What coach do you think out of this Final Four will stand out when it's all said and done? I mean, you got Jason Kidd, you got Rick Carlisle. Who you got two other coaches. Who do you think will stand out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting one is like the Minnesota with Chris Finch, who's hobbled, and you have Micah Nori, who's filling in as the assistant coach.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's just it's just weird to watch that, right?
How do we know Mike? Where was Micah Nor when we were in the league? Gosh, I know that. Maybe he was in the D League.
I don't know where Nori was a decade ago.
Yeah.
I know, but he spent a few years with Denver up until joining Minnesota as an assistant. But he's got a really good reputation, and I believe he interviewed for the Lakers job this week, or will be. But yeah, I think Chris Finch wasn't Chris and J.G. Bickerstaff part of the Houston coaching staff under McHale?
Yeah, and then JB took over when McHale got fired.
But I think Chris Finch was part of that group.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just like those stories of these lifers that grind and stick with it and finally get their break. And it's hard to question what Finch has done.
Yeah.
I mean, you think a year ago you've got like Gobert and Kyle Anderson, getting into it in a team huddle.
I mean,
and you're thinking,
yeah.
And they don't break it up. They stick with it, and then Connolly gives out a lot of money. Of course, he gave up a lot to get Gobert, which seemingly was a lot of his time competing with themselves, giving up Walker Kessler, basically 4 or 5 number 1 picks. And then they give McDaniels a huge contract. But, I mean, everything is working out for them.
Last one, because I got to ask this question. What do you think? What's LeBron's future? Future in L.A., that whole organization?
I think he sticks there.
Who do they hire? Do they hire J.J. Redick?
I like JJ. I think he's a guy, I respect his knowledge so much, even though, of course, he's never coached. I mean, Steve Kerr never coached, but it helps when you inherit Hall of Famers. I think JJ would be a good fit there. LeBron, from what I've gathered, just wants to be in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't see him bolting. And of course, the long theory's been if Bronny makes the league, then he could somehow maneuver his way to that team. But I see LeBron and AD trying to get things done one more time with some more help there.
All right, Lauer, I appreciate the help today. You're amazing. Hey, I'm going to be a pain in the ass. I need to have you on talking NBA every so often.
Man, this is fun, and so it's always good to see that handsome face of yours.
Right back at you. You haven't aged at all. It's impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love the studio and great job with Rogue Media Network, and it's been fun. I listen to you guys all the time.
Thanks, Scotty. I'm looking at a picture. I'm looking at page 6 on Instagram, and Kelly Rowland. It says Kelly Rowland appeared. We can share this photo, okay?
Okay.
It says Kelly Rowland appeared to scold a security guard at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival on Tuesday. The Grammy winner scowled as she held up her left pointer finger, which you can see, and appeared to admonish the woman in front of everyone. Why is everybody taking a huge crap on Kelly Rowland now?
I don't know. I didn't even know this was a deal. The thing that I know about them always messing with Kelly Rowland for is, you remember the old Nelly song that she had, Dilemma, back in the day? If you go watch that music video, like the Palm Pilot, whatever she's using to send a text message, it's Microsoft Excel. Like, it's just a picture of an Excel spreadsheet. So that's what I think of when I think of
That's
Kelly
not
Rowland
Kelly
sometimes.
Rowland's fault.
No, it's not her at all, but I just think of that. Like,
Yeah.
or Destiny's Child. I had the first album of theirs with like Bills, and I've always been a Beyonce fan.
Okay, that I don't think that was the first album. I think that was their second album.
It was the second album.
Yeah, so I fell in love with Destiny's Child in the summer of 1998. What was their first single? No, 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 no.
What is the name of that? You're right, but I can't.
Hold on.
Yeah, we'll let Pete look it up. But no, I've always been Beyonce's always been super talented. The group was great. Like, I've always been an R&B fan.
Destiny's Child is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe you got sick of them, but that's not my problem.
No, it's not theirs either. And then they all went out and did.
Yeah, it's called No, 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 No.
Is it just? Okay, well, that was.
Yeah.
I always feel like they were supposed to be more like.
Yeah, and I think it was always no. I like the remix better because this was the video on MTV. Oh, and Beyonce had like the blonde braids.
Mm-hmm.
I was instantly in love.
Yeah, I was with you there too. Dude, I love that song. I know what I'm listening to tonight, actually.
All right. Well, and thank you for joining us on the Pete Souza Show. We'll be back next week with more Destiny's Child. Charlie's Angels. Now, that song was, yeah. What was that song again?
Was it the Survivor?
Independent Women.
Oh, Independent Women. Well,
we'll see you next week.
We are Rogue Media Sports.